turning up the heat. T-Wil on the mic, can't accept defeat. My ATL sports show, he's running the game. Atlanta Falcons fly high, you know the name. In the heart of the A, where the pride runs deep. From the Braves to the Falcons, he's keeping it real, no sleep. He's got the scoop, every player, every play. Bringing the thunder every single day. T-Wil, T-Wil, shining bright on the airwaves, bringing sports tonight. Atlanta heart with the soul so free. My ATL sports show, it's the place to be. T-Wil, T-Wil, taking flight. Falcons and Braves, yeah, we're feeling right. So bring that energy, let the city resonate. With T-Wil on the mic, we're gonna celebrate.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome, 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 everyone in the house, in the city, in the A, in Philly, I guess. It is myself, T-Wil, and my friend and co-host, Mr. Jordan Burden. Jordan, how you doing, brother? All well?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Man, I am doing well. I have no complaints. It's amazing at what a difference 13 years can make, right? So, uh, we're here today to talk about the movie The Dark Knight Rises, the third in the trilogy by Christopher Nolan. And Jordan, I gotta say, going back watching it 12, 13 years later, it was so much better. I mean, so much better, resoundingly better. And I don't know if maybe I'm more mature now, or if movies are not just about the action sequences, but this film may have been equal to The Dark Knight. May have been. It was great. I enjoyed it. It was phenomenal. Um, and I can't wait to dig into it, man. First of all, welcome. How you doing today, man? All well?
Yeah.
All right. I noticed you have on a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey, and I trust, knowing you, as we've done so many of these projects together, that there's a reason for that. That is a tie-in to the movie. So I'm gonna take your word for that. King Daniel in the chat, how you doing, man? Hopefully all is well. Welcome back, King Daniel. We're here today talking about The Dark Knight Rises, and we are happy to see you, man. We are happy to see you. So, Jordan, as they say, let's get into it. The movie starts with a group of CIA agents in Uzbekistan. Is it Uzbekistan, whatever. I don't know the pronunciation of it, but they are extracting Dr. Leonid Pavel, a physicist, and they are joined apparently by some prisoners who the people who dropped them off say work for Bain. And so the CIA is all over it. They're excited about it. You know what? Let me take a step back, man. I'm so excited I didn't even get into the cast. I'm tripping. So, first and foremost, you have Christian Bale, who again gives a resounding performance. I thought Christian Bale was outstanding. I thought the entire cast did well. And I don't know that there's ever been a better betrayal of Batman in general, right? So sorry about that. I didn't mean to get ahead of myself there. So you've got Christian Bale as Batman. You've got Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. You've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt as John Blake. You've got, of course, Michael Caine as Alfred. You've got Marion Cotillard as Miranda. And later on, we learn that she has another identity. You've got Gary Oldman as James Gordon and Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox.
And actually, I'm so glad we did this movie right now, because 2 days ago, I'm pretty sure, Gary Oldman got knighted.
I saw that. Yeah.
So Sir Gary Oldman. Interesting. Congrats to him.
Gary Oldman. That's right. Let me get it right. Sir Gary Oldman. And of course, we have Mr. Tom Hardy. I was born in the darkness. You merely adapted to it. The fire rises, brother. As Bane. who I gotta be honest, really grew on me in this third installment, the second, third, and fourth time I watched it. So just great performances. Of course, we've got Matthew Modine as Foley. We've got Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow. We've got Joey King. This was 13 years ago. She was a lot younger as the child. We've got Liam Nelson again, makes an appearance as Ra's al Ghul. Juno Temple as Jen. Ben Mendelsohn as Roland Daggett, and Bern Gorman as Striker. All right. So now let's get back to it. Bane's men and Bane essentially cajole, manipulate, whatever, deceive their way onto this plane because they want to take it over and they want to crash the plane and plant the doctor's DNA so he is assumed dead. That's the entire reason they are co-opting this plane. If you could, Jordan, talk to me about the first scene. Talk to me about your thoughts when you saw it. Now, let me ask you this. Did you go back and watch it again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I rewatched it today. I rewatched it last Saturday night. Okay. But then I rewatched it earlier today.
Okay. All right. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah, the first time I saw The Dark Knight Rises, now, this was probably one of the first movies where outside of Marvel, where like I wanted to be invested in. Because, I mean, when I saw Batman Begins, I was really young when that movie came out. So, like, there's not much to invest. I saw a really cool movie, and it was really cool. When The Dark Knight came out, I was still really young. I was still figuring out things. Like, I was, like, in, second grade, I think. And with this movie, I had access to the internet to figure out, like, upcoming movies and stuff like that. So there was a little bit more detail going into this movie. I mean, I heard this movie was not what Christopher Nolan wanted. It was but because Heath Ledger passed away, this movie was drastically different. But I'm gonna be honest, I do like this adaptation. I like the idea, even if Heath Ledger didn't die, I like the idea of the Dark Knight just being for the Joker and this movie just being for Bane. It just makes the trilogy more well-rounded. Like, if you keep going with Heath Ledger's Joker into this movie, it feels like you're squeezing the life out of this Joker to like make more money, and I just don't like that. I don't doubt that Christopher Nolan and Heath Ledger couldn't have done an even better job than they did in The Dark Knight, but I feel like what we saw with Batman Begins was a different story than The Dark Knight, and what we saw out of this movie is a different movie than The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. So I heard Leonardo DiCaprio was supposed to be the Riddler in this movie, alongside Heath Ledger's Joker, which would have been very interesting. Leonardo DiCaprio's been in other Christopher Nolan movies like Inception. Inception's, I mean, one of the best movies of the 21st century. So yeah, going into this movie, I was really excited. I was also really nervous, and I knew Bane was going to be in it. I didn't know who was playing Bane. I didn't know Tom Hardy at this point. Like, now I know Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's now one of my favorite actors that I watch in anything. With him as Venom is awesome, and I love this adaptation of Bane. This initial scene in the plane is so awesome in like giving us Bane and like us having that fear of Bane in the same sense that the bank scene from The Dark Knight. Now, I don't think it goes as in depth as the bank scene in The Dark Knight at the beginning of The Dark Knight, but I still think it does a great job of like seeing just how smart Bane is and how he's just he already knows ins and outs of different things. He's always multiple steps ahead, and that's something that was so great with the Joker, and that's one thing that's always made Batman great, no matter if it was in this trilogy or the comics or animated series or any other movie. Is Batman's always 3 steps ahead, but Bane seems to be another step ahead of Batman. So I love this initial scene of like giving us like who Bane is. I think you're muted. You're muted.
I had my DJ voice on too. My bad, y'all. It's the T-Wil show at 6 o'clock. No, I'm kidding. We got A1 from day one, Chris, A1 Forever Sports in the chat. We also got my guy Ryan, the Birdcage, from the Birdcage, Ryan the historian. Hey, fellas, welcome. Appreciate y'all joining. So yeah, look, in this scene, the first thing we know, oh, we got the Dixon Way. I was born in the darkness. You merely adapted to it. Oh, let me tell you something, man. When Batman and Bane fight for the first time, that is gold. Mm-hmm. Because Bane lays out some lines, and brother, let me tell you something. It was just going back looking at that fight was great, but we'll get into it. So the thing about Bane is he's extremely intelligent, like you say, and always 3 steps ahead. So in this first scene, the CIA agents they're all blindfolded, and they take one guy and fire off a shot and then supposedly throw him into the air. And Bane says, "Why would you fire the shot and then throw him in?" That's what he's wondering. And they're like, "Who are you? Who am I? Doesn't matter." And then he just proceeds to tell them of his plan, right? Which is that's pretty bad, man. I'm going to tell you what I'm about to do, and then I'm going to do it, and it's nothing you can do about it. And of course, Bane's henchmen hop onto the plane. Bane does what he needs to do. They bring out a cadaver because they want to plant Dr. Pavel's DNA on it. And as they're getting ready to crash the plane, one of Bane's henchmen gets ready to go, and he says, "No, brother, they are expecting one of us." And he says, "Does the fire rise?" And he says, "The fire rises, brother." And the plane is dropped. They crash. And it's just, I think Bane is like my new favorite villain, man, or my new old favorite villain. But I think it's great. So we fast forward into the next scene, right? And it is, of course, a candlelight vigil for DA Harvey Kent. And Commissioner Gordon is standing in front of the, I guess, on the podium. No, I'm sorry. First, it's the mayor. And the mayor, calls Batman a thug because he killed the man behind him. They've got a picture of Harvey Dent. And he says, "Well, we'll have Commissioner Gordon come up and talk about it." And you can see the hesitance in him. You can see the resistance. You can see that he really doesn't want to do this. And he's got a statement prepared, but he decides not to read it, and basically says, "I was going to tell you the truth about Harvey Dent, but now may not be the time." And he basically says, as a result of Harvey's death, basically all of these laws came into effect, and they've basically cleaned up Gotham. Talk to me, if you would, Jordan, about what's going on in that scene. Talk to me about the look on Jim Gordon's face and just the whole feel for that speech in the beginning.
The whole Harvey Dent storyline throughout this movie improves The Dark Knight. It just shows how great The Dark Knight is.
It does. It does.
I mean, like, it really shows how well. I mean, that's the creative direction of Christopher Nolan. Is he like Batman and Bane are multiple steps ahead when it comes to anything. So, when I first saw this movie, I thought I was going to see Batman I thought it was going to take place right after The Dark Knight, and when you're at this scene, you notice that it's been years since Batman has been Batman.
It's been 8 years.
And yes, and you're like, you. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, so we're seeing like a retired Batman. We're seeing an older Batman. I mean, Commissioner Gordon's looking like he's stepping down, might get fired. His family's gone. Like the repercussions of the Dark Knight ended up really bleeding into this, and it ultimately ended up being a negative if for Commissioner Gordon, especially that well, maybe we shouldn't have done this because like maybe we should have maybe we shouldn't have lied to the public, and thus the whole Dent Act situation that ends up being an issue brought up in the third act of this movie.
Yep. You can see basically in these first couple of scenes, we see that Bruce Wayne has essentially parked, right? Rachel died and his life stopped right then and there. And he's basically a recluse. Yes, he's got some injuries. Because again, at the end of the movie, he did suffer a fall. And you know, this being Nolan's look into it, he's always done it with a degree of realism. And so Bruce has some injuries. But more so than anything, Bruce's soul is hurt, right? The love of his life has died and he can't get past it. Try as he might, right? And so in the first scene when we see Bruce, we see a man that is broken physically, emotionally, and spiritually. He's just spent, right? And we see the interaction between he and Selena Kyle, also known as Catwoman. And it's kind of interesting because when she first meets him, she's kind of playing coy. Oh, Mr. Wayne, I'm so sorry. And batting her eyes. And I didn't mean it. And da-da-da-da-da. And he says, yeah, I noticed that my mom's necklace is no longer in the safe. And I got to say, I can't let you leave with it. And then all of a sudden, she just snaps into Selena Kyle mode. And she's like, well, you know, I'm typically not the kind of person that would attack a cripple, but bam, and she flips the cane out under him, and says, you know, hey, desperate times calls for desperate measure. Does a backflip out of his window, and leaves. And I thought, wow, okay, damn, Bruce, what happened? So, the scene goes on, or you know, as we look at the next scene, we see Alfred going into the Batcave, and we get the impression that he hasn't been in there for a while because Alfred remarks this, and he says, you know, they talk about Selena Kyle and who she is and the fact that she was after his fingerprints. And Alfred makes a remark that, you know, he suggests or infers that Bruce should date her. And Bruce is like, she's a criminal. And Alfred's like, I take anything at this point. You basically parked. You know, you're not living your life. You're not doing anything. You're sitting in this mansion just basically twiddling your thumbs. And they kind of have a back and forth. But this kind of gets Batman, or I should say Bruce, back in the game a little bit, right? Because now he's interested. He wants to know what she wants to do with his fingerprints. I just find it interesting. Talk to me about the interaction. And you know what? The arc of Alfred's character and the arc of Bruce's characters in this movie specifically is truly something to behold, because in the first two, Alfred was more friend and father and big brother, and I've got to get you along. But in this movie, to quote the young folks, Alfred kind of has to put foot to butt. You get what I'm saying? Like, Bruce, come on, man, get your life together. Let's go. And he does something that we'll get into later that could potentially sever the relationship. Let's talk about the dynamic between Bruce and Alfred in this movie specifically.
Well, I will say, I'm gonna say it right now. The one negative I have of the entire trilogy, and I think Michael Caine is a fantastic actor, and I think, but I don't like how they wrote this Alfred for this trilogy. Um, I,
Really?
I that is my only gripe. I've always felt that way since Batman Begins, since The Dark Knight, and with The Dark Knight Rises only further escalated that. Like their conversation that they'll have later on,
Mhm.
um, about Rachel, that's that I understand. That was bound to
Yeah.
happen.
Right.
It's how the last time we see Alfred in this movie, I'm just like, dude, you left. Like you're it. That's your fault. If you like, if this were anyone's loved one, right, or someone we've taken care of
Right.
for their whole lives, right?
Right.
I feel like no matter what, even if it comes down to this type of situation like with Rachel and stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like it's a terrible situation, you're still going to be there for him.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't there, and he's like, I failed you. Yeah, you did. You failed him. You failed him, man. Like I'm
Oh wow.
so mad. I'm
Oh
so
wow.
mad. I like I get the whole that Rachel part. 100% agree with that whole situation. And I see both Bruce and Alfred's takes on it. But like him burning up the letter in the second movie, I'm like, dude, like I understand, I know what you're trying to do, right? But you're meddling with a relationship that does not involve you. It involves it like it involves basically your child or a child figure to you, right? But it doesn't directly involve you, and that's something that letter could have made Bruce grow in the Dark Knight Rises. He could have seen that letter, and it would have been like, I need to get off my butt. I need to go do. I need to go be something. I need to go be Batman again. Like that could have been that kick, that fire, that like she was moving on with her life. I need to move on with my life. And oh man, I'm so frustrated. Um, the whole trilogy. That's the I've waited to this movie to talk about it because I think the overall arc of Alfred. I personally like the Alfred from the 80s and 90s, four movies with Michael Keaton, George Clooney, and Val Kilmer, and because he is a father figure, and we see that in Batman and Robin. As much as Batman and Robin is not a good movie, um, which we can review that because I look,
God.
I love
Why?
Batman.
Why?
I
thought
love
we were
Batman and
friends.
Robin. I
What?
love Batman and Robin.
Oh God, you are not
I
gonna
do
make. Oh my God.
I do love Batman and Robin, but
Oh.
in a
Oh.
way that like when I was growing up and I was watching VHSs of those four Batman movies, Batman and Robin was one of my favorites because it had Robin in it. But
Oh.
it's not a good movie overall. I think as I get older, I'm like, this
Yeah.
movie's not aging well, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't age well.
Yeah. It's like the old Batman series for me when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I loved it. As I got older, that was a silly show. That was a very campy, silly show. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
But what that movie does, maybe better than any Batman movie ever, is how important Alfred is to Batman.
Yes.
And that's one thing I hated about George Clooney's Bruce Wayne, because he showed like no emotion after Alfred's dying, right? And I'm not going to review Batman Forever, but that's what's great about that movie.
Thank you.
And that's the one thing that just it's powerful. You go back and rewatch Batman Forever, or not Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. You see how important Alfred is to Bruce, and you see like Bruce is losing the one parent he had for the majority of his life.
Yeah, of his life.
And with this trilogy, I feel like it's more of a big brother situation than a parent. Like the first movie, I think it's a parent. Second movie on, I think it's more of like a big brother, best friend type of situation. So, yeah, that's the one gripe I have with this Alfred. And as for this interaction, this is a great interaction though. Like saying like, well, I haven't seen you down here in a while, and like he's just trying to get his basically friend out of the house and like moving on with his life. Maybe if you had the letter, you could have given the letter to him, and he would have been able to move on, bro. Oh man, that's so it's so frustrating. That's the I won't go any further, but that's
I didn't know you were this bad about it. Oh my goodness.
This Alfred, and again, Michael Caine, great actor. Christopher Nolan, great director. I think the first movie did okay, with like showing some things, but like, man, I don't know. I'm not. And some of the I think his dialogue was really good in the second movie.
It was.
It like, especially some people want to see the world burn.
Right.
Like that's amazing. And then him in the Batman Begins reiterating what his father said, which it's not even his own words. It's Bruce Wayne's dad's words saying, "Why do we fall? So we can pick ourselves back up."
Mm-hmm.
Like, and also great and in the first movie when I don't think we mentioned this, when the Wayne Manor's burning and Bruce has the like the log or something on top of him, and Alfred's like, how come you do all those push-ups and they're worth nothing, and Bruce, I swear Christian Bale, like it's not Bruce Wayne looking at him, but it's Christian Bale being like, what did you just say to me?
Right.
He gives you this look like, huh? So, yeah, I love some of the things, but I hate a lot of things about this Alfred. But this scene in the Batcave, I think it's a great way of like trying to push him to get out and do something. You don't have to be Batman though. You just have to get out and do something.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. And look it, as a father of 3 adult kids, I can say to you, Jordan, sometimes you make mistakes, man. There's no manual that comes with it. But I can understand why because while it could have motivated him, it could also have broken him. Right? It could also have made it worse. And Albert's in the moment. He sees who is essentially his son devastated and broken by Rachel's death. And Bruce says to him, Alfred, she was going to pick me. Remember, Jordan? She was going to pick me.
Oh, yeah.
So in that moment, I don't think Alfred wanted to double down and be like, oh, by the way, here's a dose of reality for you.
Right.
Bam. You get what I'm saying?
I don't think he should have. I think there would have been a right time. I think there's a right time for everything, and he even says that. He says there's a right time for this. Right. And I'm thinking, okay, so eventually he's gonna give this letter. Nope, I'm gonna burn it.
Well, okay. I mean, I get it. Like I see your point. I see the damage that it could do, but I also see Alfred's point. And look, when you have kids, you got to know their personalities. You got to, because just like certain things can make them, certain things can break them. But I see your point. I do. I'm not going to say I don't. So next, we have Selena Kyle, or Catwoman, meeting with the folks that hired her to break into Bruce's lair and get his fingerprints. And she supplies the fingerprints to one of the people that works for Daggett. And of course, Daggett is like, well, yeah, no, sorry, we can't leave any witnesses. And she says, well, obviously you can't count because there are 4 fingerprints right there. And, you need the thumb. And she's like, and they, of course, one of his henchmen pulls a gun to her head and he's like, no, I can count. You have until 10 or we blow your head off. And she's like, all right, come in here. And she hands him the phone. Unbeknownst to him, she hands him the phone and he places a phone call for her. And when her friend comes in and gives her the thumbprint, she's like, yeah, I know you like to clean up loose ends, but you may want to think about something. And he says, nobody's going to miss you. She says, no, but they will miss him. And she brought in the senator that she kidnapped that was at Bruce Wayne's foundation and that the cops have been looking for. And they are all on the way. And a fight breaks out. And the one thing we learn about this particular Catwoman, she's a very prodigious fighter. And I know Catwoman can handle herself. But Catwoman is normally quick movements. Okay, I'll get rid of you. Okay, bob and weave. You know what I mean? This Catwoman is aggressive. Okay, she's very aggressive. She's a very prodigious fighter, and she likes to kill. So, I thought that was interesting. Tell me about this scene and your thoughts as we see Catwoman engage these villains.
Well, the one thing that stands out for me about this scene is when she after she starts beating up some people and the police come in, as soon as the police see her, she pretends to be a helpless person screaming, somebody help me, somebody help me, somebody help me. And she's screaming at the top of her lungs. So, and look, if you're a police officer, you're like, I need to shut this lady up. Right. So, so he like immediately someone goes to her and was like, all right, yeah, come with me because you're annoying. But like, Anne Hathaway's a fantastic actress. I love her portrayal as Catwoman.
Yes.
It was a surprise to me because I love Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's the greatest Catwoman. But Anne Hathaway gives her own style to this, and Christopher Nolan too. But where she can just flip a switch. She's like. Yeah. Really nice and stuff. It's something that only Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman has ever done, where it's like at times you're this nice person, but then you switch and it's like, all right, here's Catwoman. And she does a fantastic job. She did it with Bruce at the beginning of the movie, and she does it here with the cops. She knows. She's a great. I was shocked when I first saw this movie and I saw Anne Hathaway do as well as she did. That was the most surprising part of this movie for me, because I wasn't expecting this. And as the more I've watched this movie over time, the more I learned to respect and really like her portrayal for the character.
All right. So we've got some comments from Dixon Way. He says, Alfred said, why do you do all those bloody push-ups if you can't lift this off yourself? Dixon Way also says, Conway is the GOAT Batman, animated series Batman, Keaton best live-action Batman, then Ben, then Bale, then West. Okay. Dixon Way says, Michelle Pfeiffer is the best Catwoman and Halle Berry is the worst. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Halle Berry. And look, I love Halle Berry, but awful movie.
It was bad. It was bad.
Between the costume was so early 2000s, late 90s. The writing was just horrendous. They tried to tie it in with Batman 89 and Batman Returns, because there are some hints. If you go back and watch the movie, you're like, oh, like I can see where this is tied in to that movie, but it just let's pretend it doesn't.
Let's just act like it did, but did.
Yeah.
All right. So we fast forward in the story. Bruce goes to to Miranda's charity event, where he meets Miranda, who is also someone else that we will get into later. Very lovely young lady. And a theme throughout this movie to me, Jordan, was the contempt for wealth. Um, Miranda had it. You can hear it in her words. You can feel it in her spirit. I think they did a really good job of that. And Selena Kyle hates rich. Like that comes across in everything she does. She has contempt for wealth. Um, and it's interesting because as she and Bruce do this dance and she begins to develop feelings for him, I I came away with the impression that maybe Bruce has a little contempt for wealth as well. I don't know. It just because why would you deal with these type of women if on some level you felt the same way? You get what I'm saying? Because she says to him while they're dancing that you better batten down the hatches. What's coming? But she makes these comments and these snarky remarks about wealth. Well, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth and blah 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 blah. But she clearly has an issue with wealthy people. And look, I'm in no way am I rich, but I don't. I'm not going to say that. We'll get back to that. But anyway, Bruce and Selena do this dance. He wants information from her. He takes the necklace from her. And the one thing we notice about Selena Kyle is that with every interaction, if she gives you something, she's going to take something else. You get what I'm saying? If she gives you $1, she's going to take 5. So they're dancing. He's like, I can't let you leave with the necklace. She kisses him to distract him, takes his keys, and walks out and takes his Lambo, right? And speeds off, which I thought was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was kind of funny. And then Alfred pulls up, is like, "You need a ride." I just thought that was, again, I thought that was kind of funny, right? So, but Bruce gets the information that he needs. I believe Officer Blake, the young man who some would say would become Robin, or I guess was destined to become Robin if it had ever happened, goes to see Bruce and basically says, "Look, I know you're Batman, and we need you. Commissioner Gordon was shot, and we need you to get in the game, buddy." And he tells him that he tells him the origin story about how he knew he was Batman, because when you know what? I know you told me that last week, Dixon Way. I don't remember it. I know you told me, but I don't remember it. Do you remember it, Jordan?
What?
The Lamborghini. It's the same Lambo. Do you remember the specific model? Because Dixon Way told us last week. Do you remember it?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't know any. I can't name you one Lamborghini on the face of this earth.
he told us last week. So none of us remembers Dixon Way. I'm sorry. So anyway, yeah. So basically, Bruce decides he's got to go see Commissioner Gordon, who's in the hospital, and he's got to go see Lucius. So he goes to have his body checked, and he's got broken bones everywhere. Like I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but suffice it to say, he's probably at this point in his late 30s. He's got the body of a 50, 60-year-old, right? There's a lot of damage to his bones and ligaments and everything. And he uses this as a guise to get into the hospital. And of course, he uses one of his Batman contraptions, hooks a harness onto himself, lowers himself into Commissioner Gordon's room, and goes in as, I guess, Batman with the ski mask over his face. And they begin to talk. And he says, well, Jim says, "I haven't seen you in a while." And he says, "Well, we won." And Commissioner Gordon is like, "Yeah, but it was based off lies." And to your point, Jordan, you can see that this thing has really weighed on him, right? So while Jim has guilt because of the lie, Bruce has guilt because of Rachel. and they both have kind of warned the impact of what takes place, right? So anyway, Bruce leaves. He goes to see Lucius, and I thought this was cool because every time Bruce goes to see Lucius, there's about to be some cool shit, man, that we're about to find out. And they didn't disappoint in this one. Oh, my bad. Jordan, I'm remiss in my duty. In the scene where Batman goes to see Bruce, he strokes the keys on the piano and the door opens. Do you know what that is a callback to?
Wait, when was this?
This was earlier in the movie when he first goes. This scene right here, when he goes into the Batcave, right?
Mhm.
He goes into a study. He hits the keys on a piano. There's a wall that opens as an entrance to the Batcave, and he walks through.
Yeah.
Hits the key. Do you know what that's a callback to when he hit the keys to the piano?
I mean, it's. I mean, there's been so many instances, like that's happened in Adam West Batman. That's happened in the animated series.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know a specific way, but I mean, all Batmans have their like own way. I mean, some Batmans have like a statue where they like move the head and there's a button. Yeah. And so, but there's been a lot of Batmans that have used the piano and using certain keys to get in. I think that's how Terry McGinnis found out about the Batcave in Batman Beyond.
It is also a callback to Adam West Batman, but I just thought that was so cool when I went back because I didn't catch that the first time I saw it, and I'm like, oh, okay. I thought that was cool. So okay, we can move forward. Sorry about that. So he goes to meet Lucius, and he wants to know why the Wayne Foundation stopped donating money to the boys club, and they basically said, look, you haven't made any money. When you invest billions of dollars in an invention, which is basically a device that will purify and produce clean energy, and then you take it off the market, you're going to experience your losses. And basically that's what he says. And he gets ready to leave, and he's like, Miranda could help you with this. And Lucius says, she's very attractive, by the way. And he looks at Bruce and he says, Bruce, we just want the best for you. And Bruce is like, okay, I'm about to go back home, whatever. And Lucius is like, wait a minute. Normally when you come to see me, you have this sort of unusual request. You don't have anything for me today? He's like, no. He's like, are you sure? It's like, no, let me show you anyway. And then again, a corridor opens and he shows him the bat. And Bruce is impressed, right? And he goes down everything that it can do and all of the qualifications. And this is one of my favorite lines of the movie. He says, and by the way, it comes in black, which I thought was really cool.
Great.
I thought that was cool. I love that. There are some lines in this movie that I really, when I went back and watched it, I loved it, man. I really did. So we got to move forward. Bruce, again, in the next scene is putting on some sort of knee brace for the wealthy because his knee's torn up, but this thing gives him the knee of a 20-year-old. So obviously, as broken down as his body is, it's realistic that he would have to have some help, right? So we see that. And then next is the infamous stock market robbery, which I thought was great. Because what comes after this, I'm all about the toys, Jordan. I'm all about the toys. I'm all about the chase. You know it. I'm not even going to geek out. We've done this 3 times. I've got it under control. But Bane comes in there, knows what he's looking for, takes over the stock market, goes in, makes some trades. He asked one of his henchmen, how much time do we have? And he says, we've got 8 minutes. And he says, we need to go mobile. And fires up in the air, and they leave out under the guise of hostages, and they have hostages.
Really quick.
Yeah.
An interesting note. I didn't find out until until I saw Twisters, the sequel to the original Twister
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
with Glenn Powell. I did not know Glenn Powell was in this movie. He was being asked questions. He's like, you were in The Dark Knight Rises for a little bit. He's the bank guy that
Right,
Bane smashes his head into the
right,
keyboard.
right.
And I'm like, wait, that's crazy. Because he was asked, he's like, if Marvel or DC ever came back to you, would you ever be down to do it? And he's like, yeah. But I always thought that was interesting. I mean, considering Glenn Powell didn't really raise to stardom until a couple years ago, and this movie came out 13 years ago.
Years ago, yeah.
So just a very interesting little side character that's now one of the biggest actors in Hollywood.
Yeah, man. I thought I, just the theme of this movie is they just hated the rich, right? Because, and let's be honest, his character was everything we hate about stockbrokers. So him taking his head and smashing it, because he really didn't do anything. But we see that Bane hates people with wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the League of Shadows, and he just views it as contempt or contemptible. But what's interesting is in this movie, we learn about the origin story of Ra's al Ghul, and it kind of ties it all together. So I thought that was pretty neat. But of course, they make their escape. And you know what happens next, Jordan, right? You know what happens next, right, Jordan?
Oh yeah, I do.
You know what happens next, right? I
Oh.
know you know what happens next. I know you know. So there's a chase, right? And Bane and his goons escape, and the cops are following Bane, and all of a sudden the lights go out, and they come back on, and we see the Bat Cycle. And the older cop says to the younger cop, "Oh, buddy, you are in for a treat tonight." And Batman is doing his thing, firing EMPs, knocking folks off bikes. He stops, and this was really funny. He stops to fire an EMP pulse at one of the villains, throws him off his bike, and the rookie cop with the older cop takes a shot at him. And Batman looks at him like, "What are you doing?" And the cop's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought that was anyway, I thought that was funny. So, Batman is chasing the guy with the computer. Bane turns around to draw the cops to him, but the cops are now interested in getting Batman because, of course, they think that he killed Harvey Dent, and so now they could care less about whoever this guy that stole all that money, because again, it's a part of the theme of working people. They're thinking, look, we're going after this guy. Well, what's he really stolen? Because at this point, they don't know, right? They don't know. And so they're thinking, why are we chasing him anyway? This is the guy that killed Harvey Dent. Let's get after him. And so Batman finally catches the guy with the laptop just in time for the transaction to complete. He takes the dongle from it, and the cops are all there. They've got him surrounded, and it is on. And so Batman, there just happens to be a truck there, which the truck was a plot device, of course, right? There just happens to be a truck there where you could just zoom up the ramp and jump onto another highway, but whatever, I'm all for it. Look, anytime we get to see the Bat Cycle, okay, wait, where is it? Here we go, right here. Anytime we get to see that, man, or the tumbler, I love it. So, of course, Batman makes the jump. Officer Foley says, where's he going? And they confirm his direction. He's like, oh, well, he's as dumb as he looks in that costume. And Batman pulls into an alley surrounded by everyone. And it is at this point that we see the entry of the Bat, which is the flying vehicle, right, that Batman uses for this movie. And I just thought it was outstanding. I loved it. I thought it was great. I look, I'm really one for the toys. Okay. The cool thing about Batman, he and Tony Stark are alike in that they've got all the cool stuff. I mean, all of it. So I really enjoyed that. Jordan, talk to me about the chase and the scene and just what your thoughts were. in regarding to this?
I I love everything about this because it's in my opinion this is better than the scene in the first movie. Now there was a lot of more higher stakes in the first chase in the first movie because of Rachel, but I think there was more gravity to this situation in terms of nobody's seen Batman in years.
Right.
Like there are police officers who have not seen the Batman before,
In
and you have the police officer saying like, "Oh, you're in for a treat tonight."
yeah,
Like you are in for a treat tonight, and like the police officers are more worried about Batman, who allegedly did they have any proof that he killed Harvey Dent? Not. I mean, if you want to go to court on this, I think Batman's probably gonna win. But it's just incredible. I love the where when he's on the bridge and as soon as he trips the guy on the bike and he's trying to get the tablet and stuff, and you just hear the music, the dun dun, as soon as he steps off his bike and he's just hovering over the motorcyclist's body, and then he just punches him right in the face mask. Just incredible. And then as soon as he realizes, all right, well, this mission's over because whatever they downloaded already downloaded, and now I got to get away from the cops, and he's got cops all around the place. I love that he's surrounded, and everybody's like he's surrounded, and he shoots one of his guns at like a truck to make a ramp and to use the ramp to get onto another road. It's just awesome scene, and the guy over the police commissioner, whoever's I don't remember what the guy's name is.
Foley.
Foley's
Foley.
like, yeah, Officer Foley's like how'd you get like what happened? And the guy on the other line's like he had more firepower. He's like, and you don't like what it makes a lot of sense.
This is Batman, man. Come on, he's always prepared.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And this movie, the more I see his costume, I love this costume. I love this look for Batman.
Yeah.
I like it's a more realistic adaptation of Batman, like Christopher Nolan does in all his movies. He's tried to find realistic adaptation of things, and if you're a man dressed as a bat, like you got to be bulletproof. So I get the armored look. I love it. Yeah, this scene was awesome. And as soon as he gets into the bat, now when I first saw this movie, I'm like, he's cornered, and I completely forgot about the bat.
Yeah.
When I first saw this movie, I'm like, how's he getting out of this? I thought we were gonna see a scene like in Batman Forever, I think, where he drives up the wall, or it's either Batman Begins, it's Batman 89, Batman Begins, or Batman Forever. I don't remember. Where he drives up the wall with the Batmobile. I thought we were gonna get a similar scene for a split second where he goes up the building. I thought that was gonna happen, and I completely forgot about the bat. And Foley's like a rat in a trap, and as soon as he turns on the bat, one of the other police officers like, I think you got the wrong animal.
Right.
I love the little dialogue of this, but fantastic scene. I love this scene.
Yeah, the dialogue in this movie was great, man. So we're gonna skip around, obviously, in the interest of time, but let's talk about the conflict between Bruce and Alfred, because this to me reminded me of Rocky IV when Talia Shire, his wife, Rocky's wife, is like, you know how strong he is. You've seen him. You can't win. And Rocky says, I don't know, but to beat me, he's going to have the heart to stand in front of me. And I don't know if he's got the heart to do that. I just don't know. And then he goes and gets in his Ferrari and drives the neighborhood. And it's a wonderful montage to There's No Easy Way Out. Shout out to Rocky 4, favorite movie ever. But it kind of reminded me of that, in that Alfred is saying that look at you've seen this guy's velocity. Look at his size. You hadn't been in the game in 8 years. I don't want to watch you die. I've buried your parents. I don't want to watch this. There are other ways that you can contribute. And Bruce is like, whatever, da da da. And Bruce, let's be honest, Jordan, Bruce is very arrogant. Okay? Bruce is very arrogant. Look it. You and I podcast probably every other day. Okay? But if we took an 8-year break and decided we were going to come back and podcast, we would be a little out of sorts. I'm sure the game would have changed. I'm sure the lingo would change. It is incredibly arrogant to think that you're going to miss 8 years. You got all sorts of injuries and think you're going to come out and, excuse me, this dude was excommunicated from the League of Shadows? This badass Bane? You know nothing about him. Normally, Batman would at least research, folks. He does no research. He's like, I'm just going to show up and whoop his ass, he's incredibly arrogant. And so I think a part of this, a part of him telling him what happened with Rachel is, number one, twofold. He wants him to get back out there and get a life, but he doesn't want him to be Batman, right? And right or wrong, he feels that this is the best time to tell Bruce, right? Now, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that's how we got here, right? That is how we got here. That's essentially what happened. So, I'm sorry. Tell me your thoughts about that. Matter of fact, tell America your thoughts about that. I got a little one banging at the door. I'll be right back. You go ahead and tell America your thoughts. I'll be right back.
Well, yeah, Alfred. Again, I with Alfred, I don't like this iteration of Alfred. I don't think it was the right time to be bringing up Rachel, especially with how like after all those 8 years, never have they had a someone come in. They've likely not had someone come in like Bane and try to destroy Gotham. I'm pretty sure Commissioner Gordon already talked to Officer Blake about that earlier on, how like crime's really low and stuff like that. Well, like you had 8 years to bring this up. You're gonna bring this up when you're gonna bring this up when we got this dude trying to rob a bank. He's from the League of Shadows, who you trained with. You're gonna bring this up now? You're gonna bring this up? Oh my goodness! Don't bring this up now.
You're still mad about it.
Like he and Bruce is like, "How dare you?" Yeah, I was saying, "How dare you?" Like, oh man. There's a time and a place for everything. There's this ain't it, Chief. You've had 8 years. It's like you had 8 years of like him being locked in his room, twiddling his thumbs, growing a beard, growing a goatee, whatever you want. Like at no point during this 8-year stretch did you decide to be like, maybe I could use this letter as motivation for him, right? And no, let's do it when yes, he physically, if we're being honest, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you think that either The Dark Knight, Christian Bale Batman, or The Batman Begins, Christian Bale Batman, could beat Bane in this fight. That would happen.
I don't think either would have been as arrogant.
I
I don't think either would have been as unprepared, and I don't think either would trust Catwoman. I don't.
But do you
Now,
think either would win the fight?
they may have not won. I don't think that they wouldn't have got their back broken because I think they would have done more research and they would have had a way out.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. So
and yeah, and I agree with that. I still think they would have lost to Bane.
Probably.
And I agree with you. I don't think they would have gotten their back broken because physically this is like the end of Batman. Like
yeah,
I was thinking about this trilogy and like the first movie is like rookie Batman,
right,
and the Dark Knight's prime Batman, and then we got aging veteran Batman in the Dark Knight Rises.
We got Aaron Rodgers Batman in the third one.
Yes, we got Aaron Rodgers on the Jets and Steelers Batman for the Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
And yeah, I think either way he was gonna get beat up. So that only furthers my frustration that like, bro, you had 8 years to say about this letter. Like, at no point did you say like. At no point did you think like, yeah, this is okay that he's staying in his room, but after 8 years, you're like, oh yeah. Like as soon as Catwoman comes in, he's like, yeah, she's proving my point that you should go out there. It's like, did you not mention that the last 8 years that he was secluded? I don't know. It's so frustrating. I understand what Alfred's trying to say. About he can't physically like compete with Bane right now. 100% agree with him on that. 100%. You can't like I can't go out and play baseball right now. Like I gotta start training. Like I gotta get back in the mojo.
Right. You gotta get yourself right.
And but then bringing up the Rachel letter was a whole different thing that I do not agree with him on at all.
It really pissed you off, I see. It really pissed you off.
This was the most frustrating part, I think, outside of the end of this movie where he's like, I failed you. This was the most frustrating part of the whole trilogy for, like, tied in with him burning the letter for Alfred. It's just, frustrating.
I pray I'm around 20 years from now because I want to have this conversation with 45-year-old Jordan. I want to see if you feel the same way. I want to see when you got 3 kids of your own, right? And they're 16, 17, whatever. Your youngest is 17. I'm predicting you'll have 3 kids, Jordan. Yes, I did it. I'm predicting. So
I will say, him burning the letter. Like, he burned the letter and yet still told Bruce.
Right, because he obviously felt guilty about it. And I think he wanted to tell Bruce. Now, you could argue he chose a terrible time to do it. But I think at this point, he's like, look, you're sitting here. You've been waiting for this lady for 8 years. She wasn't going to marry you anyway. And maybe he's frustrated. And maybe it is bad judgment. But again, I just want to have this conversation with 45-year-old Jordan. I'll be what, 77?
I just wish he did one of two things. Either if he wanted to tell Bruce after 8 years, he should have kept the letter. If he wanted to tell Bruce sooner than that, because I don't think saying it right after she died, I don't think that makes any sense.
No,
I mean, that's adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So I like after a while, after maybe a year, maybe 2, it depends. Then after you realize like, hey, Bruce isn't getting out of the house, not after 8 years. You know how much time 8 years is? 8 years ago, for me, I didn't even graduate high school. I'm like, I'm a very different person now than I was 8 years ago. And I I think like I mean I've had a lot of people pass away in my life. I would have, but I've dealt with grief in very different ways. So if someone gave me a letter after 8 years, or told me about a letter that they burned up, I'd be like, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong? Like, what? You after 8, you're like, and what if I burn the letter? What if there was a hypothetical letter that Rachel wrote that she was marrying Harvey?
Right.
I'd be like, what's wrong with you? You a hypothetical letter? Like,
Boy,
you should have. Why did you burn the letter?
he pissed you off.
That's the only thing. You do one of two things, but he chose two bad things.
He pissed you.
He burned the letter and then told him after 8 years to like throw it, and it feels like he threw it in his face when he's already in a situation thinking about Bane, and yes, he was using it as Alfred was using this as a weapon to tell him that you're not strong enough to go against Bane. But either way, he was going to go fight Bane. Either way, you just made the whole situation worse by weaponizing this letter. And I mean, I don't think psychologically speaking that makes a ton of sense.
Well, either way, Bruce was going to get his ass whooped. Okay, what letter or not, Bruce was going to get his ass whooped. Oh, now, here's the thing, and we may as well get into it. Bruce meets Catwoman. Catwoman leads him through the lair. They take out Bane's henchmen, and they arrive. And as Bruce arrives, the door locks behind him. And Catwoman says, "Hey, I needed to find a way to not be killed by these guys, and this was it." And of course, Batman says, "You made a mistake," and Bane says, "No, the mistake was yours. Not as serious as yours." And let me tell you something. I would not want to fight Bane. I'm just gonna say that right now. I would not want to fight this dude. Okay, this is Bane in all of his glory, and Bane owned him, and he owned him because every move that Batman made, he had something for. So he says, "Let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne." In other words, I know who you are, right? Oh, victory has defeated you, right? So their first interaction where they're throwing blows is like, basically, you've gotten soft. Victory has defeated you. You've been away too long. Then he says, "Peace has cost you your strength." And he remarks about, basically the inactivity that, Bruce has gone through. And he's taking Batman's best shot. And then, of course, Batman deploys the countermeasures, where he's about to disappear. And he says, "Theatricality and deception, powerful agents to the uninitiated. But we are initiated, aren't we, Bruce?" And this is his way of saying, "Look, I see you, man. There's nothing you can do that I'm not ready for." He says, "We are both from the League of Shadows, but you betrayed us." And then he proceeds to open up the can. And all of a sudden, Bruce does this thing again with the lights. And I think this is about the best villain monologue I have ever seen. He says, "Oh, you think darkness is your ally, but you merely adopted to the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding. The shadows betray you because they belong to me." And bam! Then he says, "I don't know which is going to break first, your spirit or your body," and breaks his back. At that moment, I'm like, damn, like and then he blows up the ceiling, and we find out that they are underneath Lucius Fox's lair, and all of Bruce's Batmobiles begin to drop, right? And he tells them, "Hey, we'll take the equipment too. We appreciate it." This is one of the best scenes from a villain perspective that I've seen. I like the Joker scenes, but just when I went back and looked at this, and looked at the mastery, Bane whooped his ass. It was nothing, and he was ready for everything. And the sad part is Bruce is so arrogant going into this, and I think a lot of it is because he's broken. A lot of it is because he's distracted. A lot of it is because he's literally broke because they just took all of his money and his focus is not here and he is off his game. And everything that he throws at Bane fails. Talk to me about the first time you saw this and just the thoughts. Well, not the first time. You say you watched it twice in the past week. Talk to me about your thoughts after watching it again and this particular throwdown.
I've always loved this scene since the first time I saw this scene to now. This is one of the it's just like Thanos' opening monologue in Infinity War. That's how I can compare this to. I love his monologue so much. The dialogue in this. I mean, I think the dialogue between Heath Ledger's Joker and Tom Hardy's Bane it led the path for all villain monologues that would follow this, whether that's the Green Goblin's monologue in No Way Home, because I don't think he had a monologue like that in the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Whether that's Thanos, whether that's Ultron in Avengers: Age of Ultron, because Ultron has great monologue.
He does. He really did. He really did.
I mean, I think the writing team for this, for the villains, did such a great job with the monologues. And when I first saw this and he said Mr. Wayne, I was like, "Oh no, we are here. This is going to get good." I was like, "We are in for it." Now, I think that this will be the time I talk about Tom Hardy's Bane. So obviously, this is not a direct adaptation to the comics Bane. The comics Bane is a very different.
Very different.
He's got different power set. I mean, he doesn't really have a power set. He's just really strong. In fact, this version of Bane may be the smartest version of Bane that we've ever seen.
I would say yes. Yes.
But this, a lot of people have issues with. I noticed from all three movies. I think the reason people don't like The Dark Knight Rises is because they don't like Tom Hardy's Bane, because they don't like his accent, because they don't think it's comic book accurate. But my counter argument to that is, you look at Scarecrow, you look at Heath Ledger's Joker, you look at all of these characters in this trilogy, outside of Batman. I mean, it's a Christopher Nolan like origin for Batman. Right. Even when we get to Robin, Robin. Well, I know backstory behind that whole situation, and we'll get to that at the end. But this is his version of these characters, and no one else's. So this is a new Bane, and in my opinion, this is the best Bane I've ever seen.
Agreed.
Yeah. I am in shock and awe when I see this. And I love Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's fantastic. I think he's great as Venom. I will say it. I think him as Eddie Brock Venom is fantastic. And like when I told my mom that that's Tom Hardy as Bane, she was like, "What?" Like, she was shocked, because it is shocking. I mean, he shaved his head for the scene. His voice is just completely different. And the voice, I mean, people are like, "Oh, well, Bane's originally from this area," and I'm like, honestly, this is Christopher Nolan's Bane, so he can do whatever he pleases. If he wants a British accent, if he wants a North Carolina Southern accent, if he wants a West Coast California boy accent, I don't care. As long as you can be Bane and intimidating, which that is what Tom Hardy's Bane does so well, is he is intimidating.
Very much so. What's interesting and what follows is him taking Batman to the pit and basically telling him, "You're gonna watch Gotham fall, and then I'm gonna give you permission to die." And he leaves him with this doctor. They're in this pit, or basically this prison, and he says, "The most dangerous thing to a city is hope." And he says, "I'm going to infect the city of Gotham with hope, and then we're going to watch it destroy itself." Um, and let me tell you something. Bane has. I wish we had more time, because I could really get into it, but we don't. But just had a very intricate plot. So we're going to do a few more. So we don't have time to do all the scenes today. This movie was 3 hours. But another scene that I want to pay attention to is when they blow up Gotham Stadium. It was phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. It was phenomenal. The scenery. Hold on. No, come back later. Come back later. All right, that was my niece Claire. Bringing me a surprise. Wait, come here, Jonah. Come here, Claire. Jesus Christ. Come here. They know to them. Jesus Christ. These people. I just can't say no. I can't say no. Podcast going. Anyway, okay.
They like The Dark Knight too.
I guess they do. I get, or they like interrupting Uncle Terry. Anyway, so yeah, in this scene, right? As the kickoff goes, and Hines Ward, who plays the receiver, runs it back, and the entire field is being blown up behind him. What a scene. What a vision. That was just visually stunning. The thing about this movie that I loved is that it was visually stunning. What is it? Is this your dog? That's a puppy. That's a big puppy. So you got a dog, huh? Okay. All right. So you got a cat and a dog and a turtle. Got it. Okay. Well, all right. Thank you. All right. So apparently my older niece, Jonah, just got a dog to go along with their cat, to go along with their bird. Okay. So anyway. All right. Where the hell were we?
Hines Ward.
Yeah, Hines Ward. The dog's running the football. No, I'm kidding. So Hines Ward's running it, and everything behind him. What a scene, man. And then, of course, Bane comes out and is like, "Citizens of Gotham, I am here to set you free." Da, 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 da. And the thing that was funny to me is that why is it oppressors are always referring to themselves as freedom fighters and saying they're going to liberate you when they're going to do anything but, right? It's always, it's like, this is the best soda and it's only $10.99. It's only $3 and it's got 0 calories, and it's a lie, right? It's a lie. Of course he's going to enslave them and destroy them, but he's marketing it as this freedom. We're going to set you free. And by the way, we have a nuclear bomb, and if you contact anybody outside of Gotham, and if anybody interferes, it's going to go off. But we're going to set you free. Don't worry. We're going to set you free. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine, right? And he brings out Dr. Pavel. He says, "This is the only man who can destroy the device." And then he breaks his neck. Wow. Okay. Talk about audacity. Okay. And sets the scene like, wow. All the while he's doing this, he's set a trap for the police of Gotham who go in the tunnels to get him, and explosions go off. and they're trapped down there. So Batman has a broken bat. He's in a pit, a broken back. He's in a pit. He can't help. The cops are trapped. They've got a nuclear bomb there. It does not look good for the city of Gotham. And I think the theme of this movie, one of the themes, besides contempt for wealth, is sometimes you got to go back to the beginning. Sometimes when you're going through something, you got to remember who you are. And Bruce has to go back to the beginning. He's got a broken back. He's listening to stories of the child who made it out of the pit. And all the while, he's like, oh, well, the child must have been Bane. And then he hears a story about a mercenary who secretly wed a warlord's daughter. The warlord found out about it, condemned the mercenary to exile. Unbeknownst to him, he sent his daughter to the pit. His daughter was pregnant. She had Bane. Bane escaped the pit, and there you have it. And while Bruce is in the pit, he is visited by Ra's al Ghul, who's basically telling him, "Look, I told you I'd be back. I'm eternal. I told you you weren't going to stop me. And the most that you ever accomplished was based on a lie. You know Gotham needs to burn. Just get out of the way, accept it, right?" And Bruce is after this interaction with Ra's al Ghul, this scares Bruce because he's like, I can't let this happen. And the doctor had put him in a harness or whatever, had reset his back. Now, I don't know of anybody who had a broken back that's going to be back in 5 months. That was not realistic. I don't care what anybody says, Jordan. Okay, I'm not gonna say that's real, but whatever. We'll roll with it. Maybe Batman had some cool shit in his suit that allowed him to move and fight and all of that other stuff. Well, I'll give him license. Okay.
I mean, like here's the thing. He was locked in a prison, so like if the only thing he can do is watch TV and work out and like build that strength back up, I think it increases his recovery time. That's the only explanation I have.
Whatever you gotta
tell you. That's the only explanation I have. Because
Okay.
I mean, standard breaking your back, especially when they talked about the vertebrae protruding, that's not going to happen. But yeah, the only explanation for me is, and how I interpret it is, that's all he could do was try
Work
and
out
cover.
and try and strengthen himself. I get
Yeah.
it. So they turned the reactor that Bruce had, that was the one chance at clean energy, into a nuclear bomb. And I think Nolan is speaking to the nature of man, in that whatever we build to bring harmony and bring life will always be used by someone for greed or nefarious purposes. And so they convert this reactor into a nuclear bomb. Once they separate it from the reactor, it now has 5 months, or it's going to go off anyway, because it's essentially a dirty bomb, right? So, hey, Bruce is getting ready. He's hearing stories of the child. He finds out it was the child that climbed out of the pit, and he tries 2 times to get out, and he fails. And the old prison doctor that was there was a younger prison doctor, and there was an old prison doctor that was there when the child escapes. And the old prison doctor says, your problem is that you don't have any fear. He said, you need to fear death. You need to fear something because it's going to motivate you. So Bruce goes up without a rope, and that's definitely going to be some fear. And as Bruce goes up, you hear the prisoners saying, Rasa, Rasa, da, 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 Rasa, Rasa, which means rise. And the chorus goes on, and the music gets higher and higher, and your blood starts pumping and pumping. And Bruce makes the jump, and he's successful, and all the prisoners cheer because this is hope to them. This is something that they've never seen. And secretly, they're saying to themselves, well, if he can do it, then maybe one of us can do it, and we can get out of here. And Bruce climbs up out of the tunnel, which was not far from Gotham, because why would Ra's al Ghul go back to Uzbekistan or whatever to do? Why do that, right? Especially when you want Bruce to die with Gotham. You do a pit right there. So that makes sense. So Bruce gets out, goes and meets up with Catwoman again, and they have the discussion. Now I'm being honest with you, Jordan. I wouldn't have anything to say to Catwoman. Okay, you set me up to die. You got my back broken. I want nothing to do with you. Okay, but I think what this is Bruce was clearly heartbroken because I think it's a bad decision to deal with Catwoman. I just think that's a bad. I think he will regret that later in life. Okay, because if they flip on you once, they'll flip on you again. But I think he made this decision because he's basically trying to get over Rachel. Because to your point, what Alfred told him is bothering him. I don't think if Alfred tells him that, he makes this decision. I just don't. But because he's reeling from it, and because she's basically the only help that he's going to get, he decides to work with her, which is fine. But in no way would I have dated her. That's just me. And they have this conversation or whatever. They hatch this plan, and they're loading up their camp for war. Now, Bane has co-opted all of the prisoners into his clique. Bruce has made a plane or made a plan to get all the cops on his end, and they're preparing. And it's the day before the bomb goes off, and everybody's set up. And the next day happened, and it's war. And I'm skipping a lot because we're pressed for time. But this, again, in many ways, was so good because it comes down to this. At a certain point, you got to fight for yourself, right? The citizens of Gotham have to help him take on Bane to win this fight. And if they want to live, if they want to exist, if they don't want that bomb to go off, then it is what it is. They're going to have to do that. And it starts by all of them being Batman breaks all of them out of the tunnels. They're all lined up. They're running towards the tumblers that Bane has co-opted. And I think Batman comes down and hits one of them with an EMP because they're getting ready to fire on them. And they run towards the Bane's henchmen, and the war begins. And they're getting after it, and they're fighting, and it is something. And Batman and Bane go at it, and it is time for round two. And Batman says, Bane says, "There's no way. Like, how did this happen? Right? I don't understand." And they're fighting, and they get after each other. I mean, they really go at it. And all of a sudden, Batman clips Bane's mask, and some air starts to seep out. And now Bane gets desperate. And Bane starts to do what Batman did in the first fight, which is now aggressively come after him and not really plan his punches. Not really. He's desperate, and you see it. And once Batman sees this, now he's going after him, and he's punching him, and he damages his mask, and Bane is down. And Batman says, Bane says, "How did you get out of the pit?" And he says, "Well, you're not the only one who can do it." And Bane has his look on his face, and Batman doesn't catch it. And all of a sudden, Miranda, the lady that's been helping him all along, or so we think, says that's because he's not Ra's al Ghul's heir. I am. And she stabs Batman. And she tells the story as to how she was born in the pit and Bane was her protector. And as she got out of the pit, Bane took on at least 20 men, and the damage was done. And when she finally found her father and got back, the doctors tried to do what they could do, but Bane was clearly damaged. And so the League of Shadows took her in and took Bane in and trained them both. But I guess her father couldn't get past it because to look at Bane was a reminder of what he had lost and reminder of his failure, and he excommunicated him. And this she just couldn't stand by because, for all intents and purposes, Bane was her second father. He was the first father she knew, and she loved him, and you're going to excommunicate him? So she had nothing to do with him. And then Bruce killed him, and we find out this is just plain old-fashioned revenge. Yeah, I decided to take on my father's, mantle. No, you just wanted to kill him. You want to get back at Bruce for what he did, right?
and she slept with him earlier on in the movie, so
she
that
was so
was
hot. She
yeah
was so
that
hot.
was that was such an it's such an odd thing. Every time I go back to this, I'm like, this is such an odd placement, but this past week, I was, after seeing it twice, I was like, maybe like, if you're gonna say anything about that, maybe it's Bruce getting over Rachel,
Yeah.
but there was no hints before or after this that really showed any sort of like romantic relationship. It seemed like a one night thing between the two of them. I don't know.
Well,
That was a nitpick.
I think he cared about her. I just think he had his back broken, right? He was
Yeah.
betrayed by Catwoman. You only got, you know what I mean? It was a lot going on because he looks at her, which like he's legitimately bothered. Well, who wouldn't be bothered by being stabbed? But I'm just saying he's legitimately like he feels betrayed, and he was betrayed. I think she slept with him to gain his trust. I think she
I
slept with
think
him to
so
put him
too.
at ease and to gain his trust.
I think so.
But so she tells Bane, "Don't let him die. I watch him to burn." And when she leaves, Bane says, "I got to kill you, right?" And Catwoman shows up and blasts him with a missile from the Bat Cycle, right? And she says, "Yeah, the whole killing thing. I just the whole not killing thing. I can't get behind it." And Bane is dead, and I'm happy because it was time for him to go. And a chase ensues with Batman trying to get the bomb that's on the truck that Talia has now commandeered, and Jim Gordon is in the back because remember he had placed the EMP so she couldn't detonate it. And now the chase is on, and Batman is taking on three tumblers and the truck. They move through the city. Batman takes out one of them. Catwoman takes out the other. The final one fires missiles at him, and he flies around the city and basically maneuvers or manipulates in a way that the missile hits the final tumbler. And now it's just, hey, Batman in the truck and Talia. Batman fires on the truck. The truck goes through an embankment, falls down into basically the what do you call it? The underground tunnel where the reactor is. And with her dying words, Talia says, "Well, hey, they showed me how to do the fail safe, and so yeah, there's getting ready to be a flood, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you may as well prepare yourself." And she dies, right?
I will say this real quick. The worst part of the whole trilogy, the worst part. This might be the worst death, on-screen death of a character I've ever seen in any movie ever. Like it was the like, I can do a better acting job. You can do a better acting job than what I saw out of that death. I remember the first time I saw that in the theaters, I started audibly laughing
Damn.
because because she's just like, and the entire time, Commissioner Gordon and you got Batman with like this dumb look where he's like, they're like, okay, she's dead. Let's move on to the reactor. Like that every time I watch it, I cringe. I have not cringed that hard in a theater watching a movie since then, and I think it's the second most cringy scene I've seen in a movie that I've ever seen in the theaters, behind Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3 where he's dancing.
Oh my God, that was awful. That was that was cringeworthy.
Yes.
But yeah, and of course Batman flies off, has the weapon attached to a harness, flies over the city, flies out far enough, saves everybody. Of course, the bomb detonates. We don't see him. We assume he's dead. Um, you know, the cool thing about this is, they erect a statue to him, so finally his reputation is intact. He leaves his home to the city of Gotham as long as they turn it into a boys' home for orphans, which I thought was just great. I thought that was apropos. I think Bruce Wayne was all about that. I love that. And then of course he leaves the Batcave to Robin. And Alfred's at the funeral where he's like, "I failed you," and he pissed you off again. And of course, Alfred flies off to was it Italy that he was talking about? And he sees
Yeah,
Bruce
yeah.
and in a pile together, and he knows he's okay. And of course, then it ends. And I just thought, what a great film! I really enjoyed it watching it this time. Jordan, I must have watched that movie 4 times this week. Just a great film, and I really misjudged it the first time. I really did. Now, I'll be honest with you. There's some movies that just suck. Like I think the next time I watch The Eternals, it's gonna suck just as bad. If you pour syrup on feces, it's still feces. But it really is. I mean that movie is fecal matter. Shout out to The Eternals. You suck. But I mean, this was a great film, man. This was a great film. And I'm lucky to have seen it those times, man. It was a great movie. I don't have an issue with it. I like the way they wrapped it up. Of course, I would like to have seen a follow up, but let's be real. Bruce's body is all broken up. If he does come back, he'd almost have to be as an advisor to Robin. And it'd be a different dynamic. And I don't know. I mean, you could argue that with technology, he could design a suit that, he could maneuver in. So I could see that. But at this point, I think some things are better left just, left alone. You know what I mean? And I think this is one of those cases. I think this is the best trilogy ever done by DC. I think it's the best Batman ever done by DC. And I truly enjoyed it, man. So if I had to give it a rating, I can't give it a 10 out of 10, but I can give it a 9 out of 10. I think it was that good. That's just me. What say you, my friend?
I love this movie. The ending of this movie is one of my favorite endings of any movie, just not even superhero, any movie. Because when I saw Mission Impossible, and I was telling you, I kind of wanted the most recent. I'm not going to spoil Mission Impossible because this is my thoughts going into the movie, but I wanted them to end that movie similar to how this movie ended.
Right.
Now, I will say, hey, so here's the ending has multiple interpretations, right? So, Morgan Freeman, Lucius Fox, he's told by 2 computer guys looking on the bat, seeing if they could have done anything. He's like, well, the autopilot was fixed 5-6 months ago by Bruce Wayne, and that opens the door up for Bruce could be alive. Now here's the thing. I will say could be, because the ending, despite, and also right before Robin, we learned that John Blake's real name is Robin. As he's given stuff for by Bruce Wayne, after Bruce Wayne's passed away, they say that the pearls are gone, and then that's when we see Alfred in Florence, Italy, talking to, or he just sits there and he sees Bruce and Anne Hathaway's Catwoman with the pearls. Now, a lot of interpretations, and when I first saw this movie, I had the same interpretation, is that this is something that Alfred's imagining, and he's picturing that Bruce is in a better place, and this is a metaphorical scene, that it's not actually Bruce there and that he's gone, but he is in a better place. And that's how I initially saw this movie, is that, he's just seeing things. And every time I see this movie, I think differently. I don't know if he's alive or not, or if that was a metaphorical ending. And then another thing is that, so the Robin character. So this is the first time we were ever introduced to a John Blake or Robin Blake ever. This is a brand new character that Christopher Nolan created. So it was a very big surprise when people were watching the movie and and the lady's like, you should go by your legal name, Robin. And they every time every theater reaction I've ever heard is people like saying woo. And I was like, all right, that's a little corny. His name is Robin.
It was
a little corny.
It was.
But it's the same movie that has a guy dressed up as a bat, so I'm not going to complain that much.
Fair.
So what's interesting about this is, I believe Christopher Nolan and the writers interpreted this ending as him not going to become Robin, not him going to become Nightwing, but him going to become Batman and the new Batman.
Okay.
And I always thought that's a very interesting switch up. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think a realistic interpretation of Robin is feasible in the Christopher Nolan universe, and Christopher Nolan has stated that.
Right.
But I think a Nightwing would work completely well. So when I first saw this, I was like, oh, are we getting a Nightwing movie?
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought when I first saw this. And we wouldn't get one. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a fantastic actor in everything he is. I actually prefer him in comedies. I love him in comedic roles.
Me too. He was good in Don Juan.
Yeah. But I was like, him as a new Batman, that would be interesting. And yeah, you can interpret that. I also thought about like, oh, could this be a Batman Beyond? Could he be like the new Terry McGinnis sort of way? And that when Bruce comes back, he becomes that mentor role, which look, you could make this movie right now. I think you could make it over the next, within the next 10, 15 years. I think Christian Bale is at a point in his life where he could be that mentory Bruce Wayne that we see in the Batman Beyond series. But yeah, a lot of interpretations. I don't think that was a Christopher Nolan idea.
Right.
I think that was a Warner Brothers idea. But I still like it. I still love the way this movie ended. I feel a little sour at the end when Alfred says, "I failed you," and that was the first time we saw him since he left. So I feel a little sour about that. I'm so glad Commissioner Gordon found out that Batman's Bruce Wayne, and I love the way that Batman said it. When he said, even as he said something about even as easy as putting a coat over a little boy's shoulders and telling him it's going to be okay. And I was like, that is such a powerful way to explain that. If any, it mirrors how Bruce told Rachel in Batman Begins. And if anything, I feel more for this because I feel more for Commissioner Gordon because we've seen him grow and change a lot through these last 3 movies.
Yes.
I love this movie. I mean, I've always really enjoyed this movie since it first came out. I know a lot of people don't like it as much, and I say to them, just go back and rewatch it. Just go back and rewatch it. It is a great movie. I think it's a great follow-up to The Dark Knight. I think it's a great way to finalize this trilogy. I love even in the title, Dark Knight Rises, the Rise theme. I mean, we see that throughout the whole movie, showing that we need to be better people. And I think you need to instill self-confidence in yourself. And that's the scene. I mean, when they're chanting Rise, and I don't remember what language
Rasa.
When they're saying Rasa,
that was so cool.
It was so cool. And them saying it translates to rise, I was like, that's a really cool tie-in.
That was you know what? I gotta be honest. Mm-hmm. That's another soundtrack I like, man. Oh my, I play.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Hey,
yeah.
But yeah, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. My final score is also a 9 out of 10.
Awesome.
I've thought, but it's like the higher end of a 9 out of 10. Like I actually did think about a 9.5 out of 10, but I've had 9 out of 10 since I first saw this movie.
Mhm.
I love it. So overall, for the whole trilogy, I have Batman Begins at an 8 out of 10, Dark Knight at a 10 out of 10, Dark Knight Rises at a 9 out of 10. That's an average of a 9 out of 10. And I firmly believe this is the greatest superhero trilogy, superhero comic book trilogy ever.
Agreed.
I think because, like I just said earlier, we see a rookie Batman, we see a prime Batman, and then we see a veteran Batman, and we see the beginning and the end of Batman, and that's something that even the Captain America trilogy does not do.
No.
Because you have to watch the Avengers movies to also see that. You have to. I think a lot of people say the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. I think they have a great first movie, great third movie, second movie. I like it, but it's just a little dip. In my opinion, it's a dip compared to the first movie and the third movie.
Agreed.
With this, I feel like it's just this. It's peak. It is perfect. And why is it perfect? Because Christopher Nolan was able to give us what he wanted to do. It wasn't Warner Brothers, a studio. There was a little studio interference probably towards the third and first movie. Second movie, not as much. But he was able to give us what he wanted, and that was incredible. And what's great about it is after he was done The Dark Knight Rises, one of the lead writers of this movie, wrote a script for a Superman movie, that a realistic Superman movie, very similar to how Batman is a realistic Batman movie. And he presented this to Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan liked this idea so much, he pitched it to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers loved it so much they wanted Christopher Nolan in on the movie, and he's like, "No, I got to take a step back, but I will help with producing the movie." And that movie ended up being Man of Steel.
Yeah, which we will do next week. Yeah, which we will do next week. So hey, man, looking forward to it. Hey, brother, it's always fun doing this with you, man. I can't think of anybody else that I'd want to go down this whole entire year and a half, whatever process with. So I appreciate you for joining me, man. I can't thank you enough. To those of you who join us in the chat, I can't thank you enough. And to those of you who don't know Jordan is probably one of the most talented people I know. Not only is he funny, not only does he love comic books like me, not only does he love these movies, but he can do the hell out of a spreadsheet. I mean, this dude can make spreadsheet. He's just very talented, right? Anyway, whatever. I can talk about Jordan for days. Jordan, tell these folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Ultagacy, Ultgacy. We do sports stuff. I don't really do much comic book, much movie stuff, except for here. I guess you can follow me on Letterboxd. That's where I rank all my movies. This is probably the best way for me to organize everything. I can't always remember every movie I watch. And it's a great way for me to, in the moment, rank movies. Like I just saw, what was the movie? I just saw Bring Her Back yesterday. It's a horror movie. I was kind of going into it thinking like, yeah, scary horror, but it deals a lot with grief. I have not felt like this. Only one other movie has made me feel like this, and that was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Which I can't wait. I cannot wait till we get to that movie because I love that movie. I have a just like The Dark Knight Rises, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever for me is the Marvel version of that in terms of not many people talk about it. Not many. There's people who do talk about it that just state they don't like it. But I love that movie. That movie makes me cry every single time I watch it. So, this movie, I just saw it. I think it's good. I do recommend it, but it's just be prepared if you go see it. But yeah, if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, I guess you can. I'm sure if you type in Jordan Burden, or it should come up. I don't really know. But yeah. And this is fantastic. I love doing this. This is always awesome. I'm so glad we got to cover this trilogy because this is just a fantastic trilogy.
Well, now we get into the Man of Steel, which I know you personally love. So that's going to be fun. Hey, Dixon Way, thank you for joining us. A1 from day one, thank you for joining us. 3 Dirty, thank you for joining us. Carlo, thank you for joining us. Did I say 3 Dirty? I did. Ryan from Birdcage, thank you for joining us. And I think it's one other person. King Daniel, thank you for joining us. You guys have an amazing weekend. Hope all is well. Again, I can be seen at For My ATL Sports 1 on YouTube. Or if you just want to focus on solely the movies, you can go to For My ATL Movies 1 on YouTube as well. It's a new channel, but it's all the movies. But you can go to either or, and it's fine. Again, to those of you who joined, thank you. I want to thank God for giving me the ability to do this. Of course, I got to thank my buddy Jordan for doing this with me. And last but not least, I got to thank my brother Eric Parker and my friend Jack Spade for giving me my start in this business. You guys have an amazing day. Thank you to everyone, and we'll see you Monday. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, you just watched another entertaining and interesting For My ATL Fans Sports 1 show. If you enjoyed the show, please let T-Wil know by hitting the like, share, and subscribe buttons. T-Wil would have brought you this message himself. This guy doesn't know how to keep it short and simple, not to mention that outrageous laugh. Anyway, tune in next time and have a great day. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Bye.